Welcome to my Autumn TBR. I love this season, I always have, and I look forward to getting to read the sorts of genre I love, like horror and the gothic, during the season that they fit into perfectly. I just wanted to quickly mention that I only got around to reading two of the books on my summer TBR, so I won't be doing a separate video about that. It just doesn't feel worth it. But I do talk about the books that I read in my most recent reading vlog, the one where I went on holiday and I read a bunch, which was lovely. But yeah, I talk about them there. So this autumn, I want to finish the books that I am currently reading, which are American Psycho and Perfume. I will be doing a separate video on those two books because I have a lot of thoughts about each of them. Very simply, I am loving one and hating the other. I am also reading a book called Coffee Magic for the Modern Witch. I'm trying to get back into a lot of the rituals I was once doing. I love coffee and making coffee for myself and other people, so I'm hoping this will give me a few ideas. But honestly, so far it hasn't, which is kind of disappointed, but I'm going to keep reading and, hope I find something, that inspires me. One of the books on my summer TBR was Giovanni's Room, and I will finish that book this year. Mark my words, I will do it. Giovanni's Room is about a man, David, reminiscing about an affair that he has with a man called Giovanni on the night that Giovanni is sent to be executed. This is a queer classic that I've always wanted to read, but I've never gotten around to because it's never felt like the correct time, which is honestly a mindset that has meant that I haven't read a lot of books that I really want to get around to, which is a shame. So over the next couple of months, I am reading Giovanni's Room. Whether I feel like it's the time or not, I will pick up that book and I will read it. I will read that book this year. So those are the books that I have to get to this autumn. But I've also got 3 books that I've borrowed from my local library on Libby that I want to read. Those are Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca, Where the Dead Wait by Ally Wilkes, and The Grip of It by, I think it's Jemc Jac or Jemc Jac, which sounds worse, honestly. So I think it's Jemc Jac. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke is a collection of 3 short stories, with the title story being about 2 women that meet on, I think it's eBay in the early 2000s, and one of the women is discussing selling an apple peeler to someone, which is an heirloom in her family, and these women strike up a relationship after one agrees to buy the apple peeler off the other. I actually just finished it like 20 minutes ago, and it was so good. Like the title story, I haven't got around to the other 2 stories, but yeah, I still feel like this pit of dread in my stomach 20 minutes later. Like, it's really affected it's affected my day, honestly. I stupidly decided to finish it while eating my lunch, which, if you have read Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, that was a bad idea, but I didn't know it was a bad idea at the time. So I will talk more about that short story and the other short stories in a different video. But that is one of the books I want to get around to. Where the Dead Wait is about an Arctic explorer whose last expedition went so wrong it ended in cannibalism between like the few surviving explorers. And obviously he was disgraced from his community, but I think it's 13 years later, a friend of his goes missing somewhere in the Arctic. I think around a frozen lake in the Arctic. He just disappears. So the main character wants to find his friend as a sort of redemption. And I don't really know anything about this book. The 3 books I published from Libby, I was literally scrolling the horror section at work, just looking for 3 books that I wanted to read. I liked the sound of, and this was one of them. So I'm hoping it kind of has that really creepy, like, sort of isolation, dread, ghost story element that the Arctic, that sense of dread that the Arctic can often bring to people. I'm really hoping it has, those sorts of vibes. The final book I have borrowed is The Grip of It, which is about a house that torments the couple that have recently moved in. I heard about this book on Instagram, I think a couple of years ago now, and it did the rounds on there for quite a while, like it would pop up quite often. But I just never got round to reading it, so I'm going to read that with the others. I also want to get round to at least 4 physical books this autumn. The one I want to read the most is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, which is about a family that has isolated themselves after a string of murders occur in the family, and the community surrounding the estate become increasingly more hostile towards them. I've read Shirley Jackson's work before, and I truly love the way that she writes and the type of horror that she creates. It just feels so contained and so trapping and claustrophobic. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one too, because I've heard incredible things about it. I also want to read Transformation by Mary Shelley. This was involved in the 90th anniversary publications that recently came out from Penguin. It's the really small little white ones, and I've been wanting to collect them because I love the way that they look. I think it's such a cool little idea. So my boyfriend actually got this one for me, and I'm not too sure what it is about, but I was really interested by the blurb, which reads: Inheritance squandered and engagement severed, Gordio il Cortis stalks the desolate Genoese coast. A monstrous creature, shipwrecked by a ferocious storm, offers him unimaginable wealth to exchange bodies, entwining their fates. And I just think that sounds really, really cool. And I loved Frankenstein, so I think I'm also going to love this book. There's also a couple of other short stories in here too. I really love short stories. I I think I enjoy them more than regular size, like novels and things like that. But hopefully this will be really interesting. The third book I want to get to is I'm the King of the Castle by Suzanne Hill, which is a story about a mother and son who move in with a father and son into their like creepy Victorian rundown mansion. The sons do not get along, and I'm pretty sure become increasingly more violent towards each other. Suzanne Hill was one of the first horror authors I ever read, with A Woman in Black, a ghost story that both me and my dad actually really love. And one of the first ever horror stories I ever read. So I'm hoping to love this one too. The final book I want to read is also a Suzanne Hill book, but it's a thriller kind of sort of detective novel, not a gothic horror. The Pure in Heart follows Detective Chief Inspector Simon Seralia. I think, I'm so sorry, I'm so bad with names. As a string of disappearances plague this small English village. I read the first book in the series, The Various Haunts of Men, and immediately loved it. I've always wanted to find like a small town detective series that I actually enjoyed, and I think I've finally done it. There was so much going on in the first book, but it was always easy to read and easy to follow, and I really enjoyed all the characters. I thought they were all, even if you only got to interact with them a tiny bit, they would, like, I knew who they were as someone who is from a small English village. Like, I know that person, I know that old woman, I know that, it's just, I don't know, there was something weirdly nostalgic about like this book that was about a string of, vicious murders, which is odd, but I would 100% recommend it to anyone who loves detective novels, or even if you were like me and you didn't love detective novels, but you were looking for a series to love. I always feel this huge pressure when it comes to the autumn time, because everything that I love fits into this time of year. I have too many horror books that I want to read, but don't feel like any other time of the year is good enough to read them in. However, I read very slowly. I can't read a book in a day unless I've got literally nothing else to do, or the book is, really short. So this autumn, I'm going to be, kinder to myself about it. I'm going to enjoy the season that I love, and I'm going to take, conscious time and conscious effort out of my day to do the hobby that I love, which is reading. I love reading. I don't know why I treat it as a chore, and that's something that I've really been trying to focus on this year, is to not treat reading as a chore, because it's not one. It's a hobby for me, It's hobbies are self-care. They can't be stressing me out, you know. So I'm gonna, sit with the autumn kind of, spooky vibes. It's still very warm in England, so it's quite nice, but the trees are slowly starting to turn orange. So it's a really nice combination. So I'm going to take conscious time out of my day to do the hobby that I love. And if I don't get to all the books I've set out to read, then oh well, I'll read them another time. It's not the end of the world. Apart from Giovanni's room. If I don't read Giovanni's room in the next few months, you have permission to throw stuff at me in public. So that's my autumn TBR. I hope you read lots of spooky, eerie things in these upcoming months, and that the season will treat you kindly. Have a lovely rest of your day, and thank you for watching.